The 5th season of My Hero Academia comes to an end, and my biggest takeaway is that Katsuki Bakugo is essentially the anime version of Gordon Ramsay.
The fucking boss is fucking raw!
Powerful Nerdcast assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Greetings, my friends, and welcome to my review of the final episode of Season 5, My Hero Academia, an episode which didn't really feel like a finale so much as it felt like a prologue for the next season, especially when you see the post-credit scene in this episode. Make sure not to miss it. But of course, before we go further into this review, if you guys are liking my content, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you already subscribed, make sure to hit that bell notification icon. It's gonna let you know when all of my latest videos are released. And of course, if you want to support the channel in another way, please consider checking out my Patreon page. You can join all of these people that you currently see on screen. They are the super producers of Ace Guru. But let's go ahead and jump into this episode right here, which, like I said, not the most exciting thing in the world. If there's one thing that My Hero Academia loves doing, it's a montage, and reminding you that all of these side characters exist, they're still alive, and they have some pretty wacky powers, and a lot of them are evolving into a lot of cool ways. But before we even get to that, let's talk about some of the bigger repercussions of this season, the formation of the Paranormal Liberation Front. So picking up from the end of the last episode, we get to see that the League of Villains, in particular Tomura Shigaraki, had wiped the floor with Re-Destro, and they sort of brought his organization into the League of Villains, and they renamed it the Paranormal Liberation Front, and they're preparing to go into a massive war with the heroes. Now, while all of this is going on, Hawks is still a member of this organization, and he's trying to investigate really what's going on here, trying to learn what the whole deal is with that mysterious hospital thing. And this is, of course, all connected to that weird, freaky Dr. Eggman-like scientist who's currently getting ready to do his big experimentation on Tomura Shigaraki, which supposedly is going to give him some incredible power. Whether that be the power of All for One or One for All remains to be seen, but it is implied that he can at least basically take all of these abilities for himself. Shigaraki is not one to say no to some free superpowers, and damn it, he's going to take them. We get that other great shot again that we saw from the previous episode of him being experimented on, and basically he's about to be the mayor of Strugglesville because he is going to be in constant torture and pain for 4 months during this entire procedure, so sucks to be that guy. But like I said earlier, if there's one thing My Hero Academia loves doing, it's having a big montage with all the heroes, and the last couple of episodes have been wholly devoted to the villains, so it's honestly kind of refreshing to go back to them, all of these classic characters from Class 1A, and a lot of their powers, like the villains themselves, are starting to evolve and change, and we get to see some really great moments from these characters, some of which are actually kind of surprising, like Yuga Aoyama, who can now basically create a weird light sword from his stomach. I know it sounds weird, but it's something that he can do. Frickin' Toru, the invisible girl, actually has the ability to bend light itself, which in conjunction with Yuga's abilities actually makes them a pretty awesome tag team. Of the characters they showed off, I'm actually most excited to see Mina Ashido, but that's just because she's such a striking character design, and the fact that she now has an ability that she compares to Eiichiro Kirishima's, where he's able to harden his entire body. Now she can cover her entire body with her distinctive creepy-ass acid, which basically allows her to just run through enemies and melt them, which, when you think about it, is actually kind of dark. The image of her after she uses this technique is really funny. I have a feeling that GodTuber Gowasu is going to take advantage of this one. But overall, this entire sequence just highlights that the heroes themselves are training, they're getting stronger. There's also a really great moment from Deku himself, who is finally starting to master the Black Whip ability. He's even able to use it in a really great scene where he takes on some robots, wraps them up, and kicks right through them like frickin' Might Guy from Naruto. It's pretty frickin' awesome. It wouldn't be the end of a season of My Hero if All Might didn't have a big discussion with Deku, and here he's giving him this book, which apparently contains all of this information about the previous users of One for All. We already know that Deku is going to get to learn the distinctive abilities of all the various people who used One for All. We are also formally introduced to that one character who used the Black Whip, who goes by the name of Daigoro Banjo, which again, super fun name to say. We also get some pretty harsh news that all the previous users of One for All died at a very young age, which does not bode well for Deku. But this actually goes perfectly with this whole montage sequence that we had earlier, getting to see the true growth of Deku. We've already seen a lot of that in terms of his personality and his powers, but there's a really charming scene where All Might is talking about the fact that he's going forward, mastering the Black Whip and all the other abilities that come along with his brand new quirk, but he's looking forward, no longer constantly looking for that validation for All Might. He's become his very own hero. In a way, he's gained the ultimate confidence of what it means to be the greatest hero of all time, and I think, honestly, that was probably the strongest scene of the entire episode. But of course, we get a little bit of teasing. All Might says that he's going to have to learn the abilities of Nana Shimura next, which apparently her abilities are to simply float. I don't believe they've ever gotten into her abilities all that much before, but I'm assuming, as the name implies, it allows the user to fly around or float in some sort of sense. We also got a really cool shot of Nana in this episode, and she is just looking cut as hell. So there's 3 more big things that happen in this episode, and one of them is actually kind of shocking, but I'm not willing to believe it quite yet. It's another scene earlier in the beginning of the episode with Hawks, where we get to see that follow-up on that scene where he was hanging out with Best Jeanist, and apparently he killed the dude. He presented his body to Dabi, and this is basically his way of getting in this organization. But I absolutely refuse to believe that he killed Best Jeanist. I just don't see a character like that, who's had such a prominent part in the past of the series, to be killed off screen by that. And I don't believe that Hawks would do anything that extreme. There's something else going on here, but I can't wait to see if that's going to be a big reveal, or if Hawks really did have to do this in order to get all the secret information. And if he did, I'm not really sure the ends justify the means. Also, Eri fans, get excited. There is a scene with her in this episode, which is also sort of like a bad premonition and a bit of an omen for things that are probably getting ready to come, as her horn is starting to grow and it's giving off this electrical spark, which she claims is giving her a bad itch. Again, I see this as more of just a bad omen for things that are going to potentially happen later on, and that's pretty much what the entire post-credit scene is all about too, is all of the students of 1A are being brought in for some sort of giant mission, which apparently is going to be a massive battle, conflict, war, whatever you want to call it, with a newly formed Paranormal Liberation Front. Like I said, this entire episode is sort of just building up to the next season, and I am really excited for the next season, but I do have some thoughts about Season 5, many of which I'm going to talk about in a later video that's going to be coming up soon, where I compare the big whole My Villain Academia thing to everything that happened in the manga version, because a lot of people want me to talk about that, and frankly, I have some words about it. But what's the rundown on the final episode of this season? It's okay. It didn't exactly blow me away, but it certainly had some pretty cool moments to it. I mean, there was definitely some doom and gloom with the whole Paranormal Liberation Front, Hawks potentially killing Jeanist, and of course the fact that there's this big war that's getting ready to happen with this brand new organization, which is not only going to involve professional heroes, but also these young students as well. So basically, things are about to get really intense from this point. But ultimately, this is one of those episodes where they just try to remind you a little bit about the characters, their existence, and how far they've come in terms of their training, and it happens so often in the series that I'm practically deadened to it at this point. It's really great that they spend the time to show us all of the students from 1A, but they practically do nothing with them in the actual main story. We just get to see their progression in school. They never get to be a part of any other of the big storylines that are going on. They basically just pick and pull from the same 5 or 6 characters and reuse them all the time. Look, I'm not saying that Hanta Sero needs to have a very own arc dedicated to him, but they could at least involve him in something from time to time. And again, it feels like they're constantly jerking me off with these characters. I just want to see them do something aside from just some training. That being said, they're so damn charming and funny and crazy that I can't help to just love them all. That's just the best thing about My Hero Academia. The characters are just so damned likable every single time, and they have such great interactions with one another. There's a whole scene I didn't even talk about of the characters just hanging out and having a big celebration together and having dinner, and there's this really weird little interaction between Tokoyami and frickin' Deku where he's constantly just asking him for some sauce, and it's ridiculous, but man, it's so fun to see these crazy superhero characters in such a ridiculous normal setting, and they always manage to make it really fun. Also, Deku and Ochaku shippers, there's one scene in this episode that's probably going to make you explode and is just going to continue the trend of people wanting to see these characters come together. But ultimately, like the rest of this season, this episode felt a little rushed and disjointed at times. It just felt like it was jumping around way too much. And that's a shame because there are some fantastic scenes in this episode. Whether it be the whole Deku and All Might thing where they're talking about the previous users, the fact that he's recognizing Deku's getting stronger, or even this really small poignant moment between him and Aizawa, where Aizawa says All Might doesn't have to do anything anymore. Him being at that school, living, being happy around his students is the best thing for him and them. It continues to give them hope in terms of the future and how it can change and how they can stand up to be the next great heroes. There's moments like that work, but it's just thrown into this episode to blender with a ton of other little things that just makes it feel kind of meh. You know, I'm gonna have to see how this is all going to change when I read the manga version eventually, because originally I was just gonna read the manga so that I could compare it to the current arc, but I have a feeling once I start reading, I'm just gonna try and get all the way to the end to get completely caught up. There's no way that I won't want to, but I will have some interesting thoughts when we get to that. Like I said, I want to do sort of like a comparison between the whole Meta Liberation arc in terms of the anime and the manga. That video is going to be coming out very soon, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Otherwise, like the rest of the season, I thought this one was okay. I thought this was kind of an average finale, but it certainly had some big moments in it that are worth seeing, especially if you were going to be following the franchise and want to be in on everything. So I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 5. That being said, I still did enjoy the episode, and I'm sure some of you did as well, and you might even have hated the episode, so make sure to sound off in the comment section below, and let's have a discussion about this episode, the entire season, and the future of My Hero Academia in anime form. Otherwise, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this review. One big announcement I want to say is that I finally just started to bring back the One Piece manga reviews, and it's a part of my initiative to try and make these videos a little more visually pleasing and just a little easier to watch in terms of the production value and everything. So please, guys, check that out. There will be links for that at the very end of this video. I really hope you guys will check that out, as I'm really trying to make an effort to make my content a little bit better and a little more consistent. And if it means sacrificing a little bit more of my time, then I'm willing to do it, because I love talking about anime with you guys. I'm very passionate about this stuff, but that does mean there are going to be some big changes for what type of content is going to be on this channel and the time it's actually going to be released. But I'll get into more of that maybe in a separate video later, maybe like a channel update. But for now, I'm not going anywhere. I'm excited to talk more about My Hero Academia in the future. You know I'm definitely going to, because I love this show. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it every single time, even if it is disappointing. I love watching every single season, and I love interacting with you guys and talking all about it. So yeah, there it is. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.